Vision is the most disruptive technology to cities and to jobs and for startups. So this morning I'm excited to talk about 3 parts about cameras and how we see. So first I'm going to talk about the history of lenses and the history of photography. Next about IoT and how cameras are becoming the ultimate IoT sensor coupled with AI. And third, about what I think is the exciting, most investable next platform that you should probably all be envisioning. Now, why do you think we don't all have flat eyes? Like, why aren't our eyes just opaque or flat? Not opaque. Well, the reason is that lenses were invented by evolution about 500 million years ago as a way to gather and focus light. So you have directional differentiation as soon as the lens can become pitted or back, so you can see in which direction your enemies are coming from. Now, as the eye developed, we see every specialization of eyes, but the best eyes in the world are the eyes of eagles or falcons who are able to see their prey at multiple kilometers away. Just incredible. A lot of the weight of an eagle or of an owl is actually spent on just supporting eyes. Now, owls are optimized for a huge aperture, otherwise known as night vision. And their eyes are so adapted, they're elongated, and they can't even point their eyes. That's why they have to twist their head around. Now, you and I have incredible eyes as well, but they're imperfect. Like 50% of us, especially as we age, need corrective lenses. We need to refocus that focal point of the eye in different places back on our retina. And over 100 years ago, this guy, Dr. Snellen, figured out that the way to measure your visual acuity in a standard way was through this eye chart. And now you can see them for different cultures, for people that are pre-literate. Those are called tumbling E's. That's called a land old sea. Now, if you're in the Western world, if you're in the third world, we all go to the doctor and we use this thing called a photoropter in order to measure the acuity of our eyes on a Snellen chart. In the third world, though, the New York Times just had this article last week about what a tragedy is that over 1 billion people have uncorrected vision. You know, perhaps the biggest tragedy of that is that kids in schools are labeled as dumb simply because they can't see well. Now, I've been working on eyes and have been working at this wonderful company called Warby Parker, which makes glasses. They're only sold in the US right now. They have a buy a pair, give a pair program, so we're trying to get eye care out. But we've been working on automated ways of checking people's visual acuity. So we patented knowing exactly how far you are back from the charts and doing a 2-screen interaction where you use your computer as the charts and you use your app as a remote control to do a vision check. It works like this. Can you turn up the audio, please? So this is testing astigmatism. It's called a fan chart. And for each of these things, it's sort of like Fruit Ninja. You swipe up or swipe right in order to, and then we send the data to a network of doctors who issue a new prescription. Now, the future of glasses probably looks something like this. This is a new company called Bionic Lens that is hoping to replace it's one of the most frequent surgeries is to replace the lens of your eye. If you have cataracts, it's done. But they claim that this will give you much more ability to focus, so you'll get 5 times better than 20/20 vision, just for your normal eye. It may also become a platform for projection, as I'll talk about later. Now, what do you think is the biggest lens? Well, 200 years ago, Fresnel invented this multi-part lens in order to take the single light of a gas lamp and project it so ships wouldn't crash onto shores. And as I was looking for the largest eyeball in the world, the Hubble Space Telescope uses this Gregorian telescope design in order to have a very, very long focal length that's reflected over 3 times in order to basically give us the largest eyeball, at least for visible light. Now, let's just talk a little bit about cameras. So studio cameras had very large plates and very slow film. But they were made portable in the early 20th century by Ansel Adams and others. And as you know that the invention of photography, cameras got really small, sort of driven by the need for surveillance and spy culture, espionage. And they became really the primary differentiator in our phones. So I see what's happening with cameras, as you're noticing too, is that photography is moving from this thing that you intentionally do to something that's done for you. And that's done through posting cameras, like our own version of spotting prey, like owls and eagles, as we strap cameras to trees in order to see where the deer are. We're also doing a lot of wearing of cameras, right? This is like a third eye that's sitting on our head in order to capture our crazy adventure sports. And we're also wearing cameras, which is really interesting because these are cameras that just automatically take a photo every 10 or 30 seconds. I've been wearing the Google Clip camera, which also has a lot of AI inside to recognize my family and friends, and has feature recognition like smiles, so it prefers the pictures where people are laughing. Now, the results of this kind of camera look like this. So this is every 30 seconds for a day in Cambridge at MIT and in Copenhagen at the Interaction Design Institute where I teach. And it's interesting, like these little flip books are sort of curious the first time you see them, and then they're just dreadful. Like they're not photos that any one person would want to see. But if you have AI and you can label all these photos, you can answer really interesting questions, like how often did I snack? Frequently. How often was I indoors versus outdoors? How often am I interacting with people versus screens? So they can give you all of these metrics that you would never be able to answer truthfully, with a survey or a Fitbit. Wouldn't capture it. So my last company was a company that labeled photos and did image segmentation with AI. So the sort of crazy thing for me is that the web made words clickable. Now we have individual pixels that are labeled, which make any photo or video or something in a scene actionable. One of our students at the Media Lab did a sort of wonky ring that is used to point and learn. So for a shopping experience, you can interrogate the world around you using this computer vision. And ultimately, I think this is the future of how we click, right? So these are Snap's new glasses. I'm not sure if you're going to wear them, but I think this is sort of the power of these is that if you have cameras on the front, there won't be photos for you. They will be enabled new verbs, new actions. Like if you dwell on something, you're obviously interested in it. So that will be a way of bookmarking the world. So that's where I think cameras are going. Now let's look at the combination of cameras and AI and taking photos that are not at all for human consumption. Now, these cameras are taking away jobs or tasks regularly. These tasks are boring or tiresome, but we all feel ambivalent about these tasks that are being taken care of. Tasks around parenting, tasks around driving, tasks around moving freight with platoons of trucks, as they did recently in Europe. And note, the photos that these cameras are taking aren't for you, right? They're just the data maybe to help you do jobs, but the photos aren't for you. One of the spin-outs at the Media Lab is building these plant growers for your pot or for whatever. And these things are aeroponic, so they spritz nutrients on the roots, but they also shed the right frequency light based on whatever you're growing. So you can get things that grow this fast. Just kidding. But again, these are very patient eyes, very patient cameras. They're willing to just look at one plant all day. Now, if you're a product company, how do you sell a toaster oven for $2,000? The answer, embed a camera, right? So this is a company in San Francisco called June. They sell a $200 toaster oven with a camera inside. And now you think, why doesn't my oven have a camera? You know, it should tend to the cookies for me. So cameras are doing things like cooking, searching, and even helping you be creative in new ways. This is a paintbrush that one of my students did that has a camera embedded, so you can sample the world around you. So cameras embedded in more things. You know Ring was just acquired by Amazon. Nest has just launched a camera and a doorbell. These are serving functions so that you can see, is it just the mailman or some other man? We've been using the 3D camera that's on the iPhone 10 at Warby Parker to build something that helps you shop for glasses. So the Warby Parker app, you hold it up to your face for about a second. We do 60 samples of your pupillary distance, your nose bridge height, and then we're able to recommend the glasses that fit your face, and also the glasses that people with similar faces have purchased and not returned to the company. So we're both using a big data, historical ground truth data set to recommend the right glasses. Orbital Science is helping hedge funds figure out whether JCPenney is trending up or down based on counting cars in parking lots. We build a prototype for a trash can that would do supply chain management in your house. So when you throw out yogurt or toothpaste, it automatically adds that to your wish list on Amazon. Amazon then came out with the dash button that allows you to do it explicitly, which seems sort of like too much work. I just read Amazon Go is launching not only in Seattle, but in Chicago and San Francisco. This is a store that has 5,000 cameras in it. One of my former employees is working at, they said they have a camera trained to every single product in the store. I said, no, you must be using like RFID for training data, and then like having a much more sparse network of cameras. And they said, no, we're just throwing just many cameras at the problem for now. And if you're a store owner and you want to compete with Amazon, another spin-out from the Media Lab called Deep Magic is doing 2 cameras per aisle. So if you have a small store, people tap in with the phone and then they just pick up and walk out and are dinged for whatever they purchased. Maybe the most provocative thing that these neural networks are doing are not only these sort of mundane tasks like watching your kids, just kidding, that seem like sort of important tasks, or driving or watching your plants. But I think these neural networks can be trained on data that could influence even things so subjective as like, how do I look this morning? So there's a product called Amazon Look that is designed to go, of all places, do you know where? Where do you dress? The bedroom, right. So it goes, a camera in your bedroom, owned by Amazon, and it's designed to stand up in front of it, and you say, Alexa, take a picture. And so it will compare outfits and tell you that the outfit, doesn't look great today, and you should wear something else. Doing a job that you thought only your friends could help you with. Well, here's I think what it means for investors and for entrepreneurs. In the last 2 weeks, Amazon launched, just last week at their user conference, Deep Lens, which is basically dedicated hardware and a set of training tools that live in the cloud, but then once trained can put the deep learning models in the camera itself so it doesn't have to re-hit the cloud. So you should not do any sort of horizontal deep learning play as an entrepreneur. The big clouds are doing it for you. You should instead go totally verticalized and try to solve very industry-specific problems with these amazing new tools that Amazon and Microsoft are bringing. Qualcomm did the same exact move. Microsoft did the same exact move with a Qualcomm camera, which is designed to, be trained for, maybe you want to make sure your construction site, everyone's wearing hard hats. So you train it on is not wearing hard hat, and then you can send a flag if no one's wearing their hard hat or whatever the application is. So last, let's talk about beyond cameras. Let's go back to eyes for a second. What will we see when we can augment our vision with new lenses, like the Queen here? Well, one direction we can look to is sort of the fantasy of that Hollywood has portrayed with heads-up displays. This is a very content-filled Iron Man flying app. It's sort of interesting to see another fantasy of not experiencing the world alone, but with a virtual agent who's luckily the voice of Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her. But no, do you remember the movie? Like, he never sees what she sees. It's sort of not a reciprocal relationship in that way. Like, they can hear each other through this headphone in the ear, and she can see what he sees based on his pocket phone camera. But maybe that's why the relationship deteriorates over time. It's not, it's not reciprocal. So I know what you're saying, like, come on, David, augmented reality, it's so wonky, like the headsets are so big, is this really going to catch on? Well, there's so many engineers across the world that are working so hard to miniaturize and make elegant this idea of superimposing another data layer on the world around you for more than just Pokemon. And I think very soon it will be sort of like the Kingsman movies where you have this teleconferencing app. It's funny that they could be teleconferencing anywhere, but instead they still go to their rich old wooden table and wear suits. They could superimpose suits. So I see the app sort of cascading in this fashion. I think the first crazy killer app is industrial co-presence, where you have a complicated situation, data about that complicated situation can be superimposed and laid on top, either in real time or ahead of time. Other industrial apps, my brother-in-law is a New York City firefighter, and he's super excited about deploying drones to the fire, and also these helmets, which automatically do edge detection and highlight if you're in a smoky situation, sort of where the door openings are so you can just navigate through the situation. I think next comes sports. There's another Media Lab spin-out that is doing this glasses called Soli, which are only for road cyclists. I love the only for type applications, because then you can really optimize the hell out of the design. So one of their insights was when you're outside, your iris is all the way closed down and you have a very long depth of field. So putting a screen here is the same focus as infinity. So you perceive this to be an overlaid screen. I think also thinking very contextually about where exactly do you want the data in that moment. One of my favorite AR apps just for the phone is called Peak AR, because usually by the time you've climbed the mountain, you need a little bit of a rest, and you always have this question about what are the peaks around you. And this is a nice app that superimposes the names on the peaks around you. Now, the industry is growing very, very quickly. The AR is. These are units in billions on the axis. And so there's a lot of investment that's happening in both in the hardware and in the software apps. One of my favorite companies that does mapping is called Quid, and they're trying to map all of the use cases from shopping to gaming to real estate to industrial, and trying to size those. By far, the biggest company that's raised money in this space is Magic Leap. They've raised $2.3 billion to do this projection system, light field projection. Recently, $500 million from Saudi Arabia, and the images that you get are very, very convincing. And this developer headset is supposedly coming out this year. And because what it does is really, really, really magical. It blends what you currently see and superimposes with a sense of depth and a sense of occlusion, new information on top. Now, I know I'm talking about the eye, but I have to mention that Bose is also getting into what they're calling AR, but it's just in the audio space. But I've tried these glasses, they're incredible. It's sort of, think of them as AirPods. They have directional microphones, drivers, and also they handle the spillage issue, so other people can't hear the music that you're hearing through the temples of your glasses. They also started a $50 million fund to try to ignite a startup ecosystem of doing content that would be ideal for this sort of mixed use, where you want to hear the city as well as content, maybe for walking around the city or for exercising or for other applications like that. But everyone else that is a meaningful user experience hardware chops company is filing patents and trying very hard to run after this. Cult of Mac this is a speculative rose gold version of what the Apple offering might be in 2019. So we all talk about augmented reality. I think a flip, which is compelling, is to think about the inverse, which is diminished reality. So maybe the best app for these things is to filter away parts of the world that you don't want to see for a more serene view of the world. Maybe ad blockers is the big opportunity for AR. How many people watch Black Mirror? So in the episode called White Christmas, there was sort of another dystopian fantasy of maybe you would pay not to see someone. So you could block someone. So instead of appearing like this, they appear like this, and they even disappear from your family photos. Maybe you all know someone like that. So in conclusion, whether it's AR glasses or AR contacts, I think our children will hardly remember what a smartphone is. And if you're building AR apps or solutions for the Internet of Eyes, focus on problems that matter. Things that will make you proud to solve and that will give you and your investors returns and meaning. I get my students to focus on these priorities, these UN development goals. So thank you. I'm eager to meet you and pitch in on your vision-related startup. Be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.